Good afternoon, everybody, and I am in the presence of a miracle. We actually had a good Monaco Grand Prix. I am as shocked as you are. This is a startling revelation, and we thought no better way to celebrate the occasion than to have a wrap. Welcome to WTF1 Wrap, powered by our friends at MoneyGram. Before we get into it real quickly as well, just let you know, for those guys based in the US watching along right now, our partners at MoneyGram are running a fast money giveaway each race weekend with up to $50,000 up for grabs. You've got until 6 p.m. Eastern. 6 p.m. Eastern today to sign up for your chance to win. Download the app if you want some more information. So do check that out from our partners at MoneyGram if you haven't already. More on them in a little bit. But first of all, we have to introduce our guest, and I've already seen the chat getting very excited about him because he's a popular man in these parts. Esports presenter, content creator, all-round stand-up guy, Mr. Haydon Gullis. Hello, Haydon. Good to see you. Welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone at home. Well, thank you very much for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure to catch up with you again, most importantly, because, we met, I think, a couple of years ago, and it's been so long since we met and even chat. So it's been great to come on here.
It has. I want to say 2019 Autosport Live was when we bumped into each other.
Yeah.
It's been nearly 4.5 years since then, and we safe to say we've both come a long way since then. Me having the honor of watching this, and tell the good people if you don't know already, Hayden, like what's been going down with you lately, besides just generally brilliant content creation.
Well, if you don't recognise me from watching F1 esports shows, I've been lucky enough to do some presenting on that in the last year. Hopefully, get the call up to go again for this season. I do my own content here on YouTube, Haydon Gullis, where I'm basically just playing the F1 game. So if you enjoy F1 game content, you might have seen me before. And that is basically what I do at the moment. I just play the game and I have fun.
Nothing more to it than that. Besides some minor esports presenting gig. Besides that, it's fine. It's not like anyone else that's used to work for us were a big esports presenters or anything. Anyway, also again, a solid 9 out of 10 for the backdrop as well. I do appreciate a man who likes his Funko Pop, so that is definitely +1. Hi everybody in the chat for who's watching along as well. Hope you guys enjoying the show. And don't worry, you will get to chip in on this tier list real soon. And I know I've already seen people critical of the fact that the thumbnail had Perez in A tier. Safe to say, I don't think that's holding up.
Draw them in. Draw them in.
We have to do what has to be done. But Hayden, we were talking about this before we went on the air. We got lucky here a little bit. Thank goodness the heavens opened halfway through, because that probably gave us a genuinely really thrilling race.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think everyone understands that Monaco is just going to be one of those races where you're hoping that something outside of just racing happens to make it exciting. Qualifying is such a great day, and I'm glad that this year we were finally able to have not a red flag at the end, able to take those final runs and really see everyone push it to the line. That was beautiful to see. But yeah, had a really enjoyable race today. But I do still think there's questions that need to be asked, certainly about the tyres. Max Verstappen doing like 50 laps on those medium tyres shouldn't be happening.
No, I thoroughly agree with you on that. I said it after our last race that I still think Pirelli are very conservative with the way they go about their tyres. And if one compound is able to do comfortably more than half of the race distance, then you've got a problem. And I don't think it makes for great racing. I don't think they would have done that under normal circumstances, but of course, because of the risk of rain in the area, they felt like they had to gamble. And track position is absolutely king around here, so you can't afford to give that up. So I had a feeling that that's part of the reason why they had to go so long. But I don't know how much of that is just Pirelli and how much of that is just Max is an absolute cheat code in this Red Bull at the moment, because he went almost 50 laps on the medium tyre, and he was going faster, if not the same pace as Alonso on the hards by the end of that stint before the rain started coming down. So I don't know how much of that is Pirelli and how much of that is just Max being busted.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, especially as it's the medium tyre. If it's the hard, we saw that last time, and everyone was calling it out and calling questions, especially at Baku as well, and Ocon did pretty much a zero stop until the end.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, but then the medium tyre doing that long, you're like, come on now, like, we're from the days back in like the 2013, 2012 days. I remember seeing your stuff back then, and
Oh, bless.
we know about like Pirelli falling off a cliff and having that exciting 2012 era where if you try and do a one-stopper right at the end of your stint, you're gonna fall off a cliff and you're gonna have a lot of cars backed up behind you. But the two-stopper is obviously going to be the quickest one, but you're going to get that track position for the one-stop.
Absolutely.
But we don't have that variation at the moment, and that is the problem. Obviously, Monaco's a special kind. We can't really discuss too much, but because we've seen it a trend across the season, this just proves it again even more so, especially as it was a medium tyre that caused the issue.
Absolutely, yeah, no, it's not ideal that even the middle compound. This is the softest ones they bring. They went C345 for this weekend, and the medium was still able to be a competitive tyre after the better part of almost 50 laps, because it wasn't just Max, to be fair. I know the McLarens ran that long. I know Tsunoda ran that long as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of, shall we say, I still think Pirelli's a bit too conservative. I still think you should be aiming for 2 to 3 stops. I think that's your sweet spot when it comes to race strategy, rather than being encouraged to run the one stopper week in, week out. I just don't think it makes for great racing, personally. But thankfully, the rain saved us on this occasion. We got a little bit lucky on that one, certainly. But also, shout out to Esteban Ocon as well on the podium in third. That is a huge podium for Alpine. We've already now had. God, has the guy had a podium? Are we now at 5 different teams on the podium this season? Has Ferrari gotten one yet? I'm trying to think. I think Leclerc did in Baku, didn't he?
Yeah. I think he just held off Alonso at the end.
Yes, so I think we've now had half the grid on the podium already, which, given that Red Bull is absolutely running this field over, is actually quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, indeed. Good stuff from Ocon. I think just nailed the qualifying. Qualifying's so important around here. So he smashed that, and then, the next job is just don't put it in the barriers, and he didn't do that. He did it. He got spot on. He got the strategy right when the rain came. They threw rain at him. He wasn't sort of put off there, and even pitting a little bit earlier to cover off Hamilton, it was the right choice to go for, because the undercut is so powerful around here. Because as soon as you get stuck in a train,
you've had
whereas we saw Perez try and do it at the start. Like, Perez tried to do it at the start of the race, where he pit early on the first lap, catch back up, and then when everybody else makes their pit stops, he'll be up in P. It looked like he could have been up in P4, and then they got stuck behind a bit more of a Logan Sargent train. That dropped him off, and then everything else happened. But
we'll get into that in the tier list very, very shortly. But I did see the graphic come up at one point. Perez was like 4.5 seconds a lap slower than Max, because he was stuck in that Logan Sargent train. That was absolutely brutal, to say the least. That was not ideal. Also, shout out to Mike in the chat, who says, also shout out to the broadcast quality finally being good in Monaco thanks to F1 handling it. Yes, I do agree with you on that, Mike. Nice seeing some of the different camera angles, and it was just so much more delicately handled, even though we do have to say rest in peace to the infamous Lance Stroll meme. It lived a good life. It was a good run. But sadly, we'll probably be laying that to rest, because FOM's broadcasting department is probably just a little bit better than Monaco in-house, unfortunately. Right. Shall I unearth the tier list? I think we should unearth the tier list. Here we are. We've got our 20 drivers here. We're just able to cram the whole thing in here. Yep. So how we're going to score it is that we're going to basically score every driver's performance over the course of the weekend on a 5-tier scale, from S tier to D tier for the very, very best. We'll go through the grid one by one. After halfway, we'll stop for a quick break, but afterwards we'll get into the full grid and the full list. Hayden, give me a name. Who do you want to go with first? Guest choice.
Oh, who do we want to snap up first? I guess we're going to build up from the bottom part of the grid. Let's start off with Kevin Magnussen. Let's build up to the top drivers at the end.
So let's go for Kevin Magnussen. Safe to say, not a great day. I don't think it was entirely his fault, to be fair.
No.
They did keep him out there on the slick tyre for way too long.
I don't understand it. made no sense.
I don't understand what they were doing with this man. It was like we're gonna keep him out on the slicks. He was trying to, I think, explore down every escape road at some point over the course of the weekend. I think he was missing only the Novell chicane for a full house.
Well, he was just looking for for a dry spot around the track, and I think there was one under a bridge down at Sandoval. So he did find it. He did find a dry spot, but it didn't help him out too much.
I'm tempted to go. I don't want to completely destroy him because it was one. Amazingly, we only had 2 DNFs the whole way, and technically Magnussen actually finished because he did get to 90% distance. So technically speaking, he is a finisher. But I think his team kind of hung him out to dry a little bit.
Yeah.
I kind of want to say C here.
Just trying to think, like, it's one of those where not too much. He did actually make a nice kind of move on Sargent. It was quite a bit of a lunge, but around Monaco, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, I did like that.
It's the only way to get past people, so you have to do that. He wasn't as bad as Hulkenberg when he made his move on lap 1, so he got away with that.
Caldor also makes a good point in the chat as well, saying Magnussen definitely weaved when defending against Stroll. Should have been a penalty. Also, that's a very good point, Calderoy. I do agree with you on that.
But again, it's Monaco, so you can kind of get away with it too, because as long as you put your car kind of in the middle of the track, and then you can get that excuse of like, oh, well, I was just going back to the racing line because he wasn't alongside me, and I was taking the racing line to get through the corner. So you can kind of get away with it. Monaco is one of those like touchy subjects because it is difficult to put it one way or the other. I think I'd agree with you on C. I think I don't think it was fully on him.
No.
And I think he showed good moments.
Yeah. So I think C's fine for K-Mag. Lou's next on my list. Let's go Lewis Hamilton. I'm sure this won't split the room. 4th place on the day. I think that's a pretty good weekend for Mercedes. You know, there was a lot of hype about them going into this, given that big upgrade package due. They were going to unveil it at Imola. Didn't quite do that in the end. They instead delayed it to here. Qualifying was all important. Did qualify well. Ended up 4th. Survived the rain chaos at the end. I'm tempted to go A here, Hayden. I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm thinking A here. I think that's a pretty good weekend.
I think he'd be very happy with how the weekend went, because if you remember back to qualifying, it looks like so many times he was going to get knocked out in Q1, then he was going to get knocked out in Q2. He was really struggling in the qualifying session. So to get himself into that position in the race, and I think Mercedes pitched him at the right time, because like I said earlier, you want to get that undercut, get that free air, catch back up to the pack, and it allowed him to jump the likes of Sainz as well through that. So yeah, solid result, I think. Above average, but I think not quite S tier. I think I agree with you on A.
A, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely yes, I do agree with you. Yeah, absolutely Hamilton A for me on that one. Guys in the chat, feel free to chip in. Feel free to get your opinions heard. I'll absolutely take you on board on this one as well. For a little bit tight or not sure about something, then we'll absolutely fire that in there as well. Let's go Esteban Ocon here. And I'm tempted to go all the way up to S on this one. That qualifying lap was so important. Strategy-wise, got the intermediates on when he needed to, defended well, good pace overall. He was comfortably holding off Sainz behind him, even when Sainz hit him before the rain came down.
Yeah.
I think Alpine belonged out there. I think it was a very well-deserved 3rd place for him. I'm tempted to go S here. I think he was driver of the day after all as well.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. Like, the qualifying is so important around here, and he did exactly what he needed to do. He put it 3rd. It was a great result there. But then in the race, like, for a driver that you have all that pressure on, he's in a place where he should not be. The pressure is on him. He's got Sainz right behind him. He's got other drivers right behind him. Especially in those wet conditions, it's so easy to make a mistake when you're on slicks and wets. And he didn't blunder at all. Brought the car home and did his job. So yeah, S tier has to be.
S tier. I can't argue with driver of the day for giving according to the fans. I can't argue with that at all. Easy S tier. That's a phenomenal result for Alpine, given how points are going to be at a premium for many of these teams this year. So that was an excellent result from him. George Russell is next on my list here. Now, George is an interesting one because I think George could have had a podium here. I think he was looking good for 3rd after the rain had settled out. He'd made some gains on track. And then he goes off at Mirabeau, and then he clatters into Sergio Perez, gets a penalty for an unsafe rejoin as well. I don't think it's a terrible weekend for the fact he finished in 5th, but I'm tempted to say B here for sloppy driving towards the end. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think from where he started, if he'd have finished P3, you're looking at S tier. Like, he's had a phenomenal race. He's got himself up there, worked the strategy great. But that blunder's brought him back down. Not to be like, you've had a terrible race, because he just basically finished he finished above where he started. But yeah, I think average performance, like great start part of the race, and then that end just kind of brought him back down to an average. So yeah, I think a B. Yeah.
Yep, agreed. Chat stated green. B for Russell. B or a low A. George is an easy B. Yep, I agree with all you guys on that one. I think that's a B grade on that one for George Russell. Should we get Max out of the way now? I feel like we should get Max out of the way now. I feel like this is a straight in the S tier. Won the race from pole position. That was an incredible pole lap at the end, by the way. That final sector was stuff of the gods. That was incredible from Max on that one, and didn't really look back all race long. He played it dangerous with a couple of those walls there, certainly. But gosh, what can you say? Max is just him at the moment. He is untouchable if a race goes clean. He's just that good, isn't he, Hayden? I mean, what can you say that hasn't already been said?
One of the best drivers on the grid, with the best car on the grid. Like, when those two come together, you're just going to have the perfect blend, and there's nothing. They're unstoppable at the moment. Fernando Alonso, they're trying to throw everything at him, and they just couldn't come close, unfortunately. And I don't think he put a single foot wrong. S tier, drove away easy. End of discussion.
It's a terrifying thought that this was maybe the one track where Red Bull might not win outright. And they have comfortably in the end. I'd say the run in the table for Red Bull is very much on at this point, in terms of how good they are as a team at the moment. Yeah, give the man his S. Let's move on. I'd like to. This is going to be an interesting one, right? I've got Fernando Alonso here, right?
Okay.
I got Fernando. And Fernando, I want to say S as well. I think he drove really, really well, and I think what happened in the pits was not his fault. From what I've heard reported,
yes, he questioned it. He questioned the decision from them, and it's one of those things that it's a weird blend of both ways, because you listen to the team radio with Red Bull, and they fully on Max. They're like, whatever you want to do to stay on the track, you tell us and we will do it. We are completely up to you. Whatever you feel like you need, we'll do it. And that worked perfectly for them. And you'll look at that now and think like, that's what they need to do. But then you look at, like, remember Russia a couple of years ago with Lando Norris? And the team were like, you need to box. And the driver's like, no, it's fine. We don't need to box. We can do this. And it doesn't work the other way. So sometimes it's going to go in each other's favour. Today it didn't work, but Fernando did nothing wrong, so it's an S tier.
No, for me, I completely agree. That was his best weekend in years, I'd argue, with Aston Martin. That was a really, really great drive, and he tried. I mean, I think it's more than obvious at this point. The Aston is not the Red Bull, and it just hasn't got the legs compared to everybody else. And as you said, it was an Aston Martin miscommunication in the pits that led to the extra stop. Didn't harm them, but I think it certainly denied them a genuine shot at the win. I think at least it would have probably put them back out in front if they'd put the intermediates on straight away and forced Max to pass him on track. Which it wasn't impossible to do. I mean, we saw the McLarens later on, because they never disabled DRS, which I thought was quite interesting as well.
Yeah, that was quite strange.
They never disabled it. They let it go for that main straight, and steward's discretion at the end of the day. But yeah, that wasn't on Alonso. That was on the team, unfortunately. But yeah, I agree. Alonso's in S tier. That was a really, really good drive through no fault of his own. Luckily, no real harm done. But I think Aston will be looking at that garage thinking what could have been, to say the least. Let's go to the other end of the scale here. Checo.
Okay.
Oh, Checo.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
It's got to be at the bottom, hasn't it? It's got to be D. There's no other place for it. I think things were, like I said earlier, things were looking maybe a little bit more positive for him in the race, that he can maybe build it back up through just pitting early, catch back up to the train, let them all box, jump them. You're in P, you're in the points, you're sitting comfortable. You've had a good recovery drive there. But then, driving into the back of Magnussen, I think it was, breaking his front wing there. There was just too many blunders. Great save, in all fairness, caught on the camera on the replays where he was on the intermediates. Fantastic save, 10 out of 10, S tier for that. But for the performance, it's a D.
I can't disagree. I think it's a D. I was looking for reasons not to give him a D, and I just couldn't quite get there. He couldn't really pass people on track. His racecraft was a bit on the clumsy side. He was caught out by other cars on track in traffic, and yeah, it's just a rough day at the office. I mean, the damage was done yesterday for Perez, really, with that qualifying blunder. We all know that qualifying is absolutely imperative at Monaco, and when you put it in the wall in Q1 and start from the back, you're always going to be up against it, and if the track doesn't go in your favour, you've had it, and that is an absolutely critical defeat for Perez in the title race, because he's just lost 25 points to Verstappen. And Max
closer
is now
to Alonso now, isn't he?
Yeah, I think Alonso's only 12 points behind him now.
Yeah,
so,
it's not a lot.
Yeah, so I see a lot of people in the chat asking about Charles. So let's go for Charles next. Let's go to Charles. And, Charles is an interesting one. He finished 6th. After all that chaos, Charles ended up finishing exactly where he started.
Yeah.
Again, feel like the damage was done yesterday with the most blatant blocking penalty I think you will ever see on Lando Norris in qualifying. Ended up 6th in the end. I'm tempted to say B on this one, Hayden. Just nothing particularly remarkable about it. Some in the chat saying A. We'll have to wait and see. What do you reckon, Hayden?
I'm trying to think what he did that was that special in the race that puts him above an average performance. Really, the penalty. I remember Jensen saying after on Sky that there's it should be a gentleman's agreement amongst drivers that you don't slow down the tunnel, because as you run into it, you're kind of blinded. You can't really see that well of a driver going slowly, so it's so difficult there. So it's a stupid error to make. Absolutely. To give yourself a free pace penalty.
Team didn't help him either on that one, because the team didn't tell him that Norris was on a hot one behind him.
Team don't help there, and then I suppose in the race, I just feel like Ferrari is. I think Sainz was the better driver today. I think Sainz had more pace because Leclerc didn't make any ground either. Sainz both were kind of stuck behind Alpines. Both struggled there. I think, I don't think it's a higher than a B. I think, it could even be a low B, high C in all fairness, but I think an average performance maybe is better suited.
I think B's fair. I think B is certainly fair. I don't think anything was too remarkable about his drive once the race actually started. Again, I think the damage was done yesterday with his qualifying blunder. But in good news, we can say for the first time in his F1 career, Charles Leclerc's completed 78 racing laps of a Monaco Grand Prix. So good for him. Good for him. He's cracked that mark. Let's go to Pierre Gasly. Now, this is going to be this one. Gasly ended up 7th in the end. I mean, it's going to look a little bit bad when Ocon's put it on the podium with how good his qualifying lap was. But I still think Gasly was pretty solid out there. I'm tempted to go A, but especially because he gained a bit of ground. But I'm leaning towards A or B. How do you feel about it, Hayden?
See, I looked at it the same, and I thought he's had a really good performance. If you isolate him and you look at him, you go, he's had a good performance. But then his teammates on the podium, they've got exactly the same car. He maximised qualifying, so I feel like I can't give him an A, and it has to be a B for Gasly. I feel like if his teammate wasn't in third and he beat his teammate, or they're in the same position, then maybe you're looking at an A tier. But
sure,
Ocon's third, he's 7th. It's not a bad result. It's still a good amount of points. It's a good day. They're in the mix there with the Ferraris. But I think maybe just B. Maybe just again another sort of average kind of performance today.
I think you made a spot on point. If this was in a vacuum, 6 points for Alpine, for Gasly finishing 7th would be a really solid day at the office. But with Ocon's got you 15 for finishing 3rd, that's a mega result. So I think Gasly B is about right. Chat's largely agreeing with us here. B on that one. Let's go with one more before we take a quick break. Let's go for Carlos Sainz. I've dropped him in B for the moment. I think that's about where he should be. He got caught. He got caught up in a lot of mess. He was caught up in the rain. He was caught up. He drove into the back of Ocon's car. Was lucky in a sense that he was only given a warning. I think that could have been 5 seconds. I think the stewards generally got that right. They just let him go on that one.
Yeah, he lost the front wing, and luckily Ocon didn't get a puncture, so nothing really came of it. I potentially could even drop him down to a C because he started ahead of his teammate. He got front wing damage. He then slid off down the escape road that allowed Charles to overtake him, which then meant they had to double stack, and he lost even more time, which then cost him the position as well to Gasly. So if Leclerc's just a B and he started behind Sainz and finished above him, then I feel like Sainz maybe either has to be a low B or a high C. I think
that's fair. I'm gonna say C. I see C8 and Crusader Larry in the chat both saying C. Mike Cabetta says C as well. I'm gonna go with the chat on this one to break the tie. So yeah, Carlos Sainz in C. Just another sloppy weekend for him, really. It's a shame because I think you're right. I think on pace he was every bit as good as Leclerc was this weekend. It's a real shame he's actually let himself down a little bit with just sloppy racecraft more than anything else. Before we get into the second half of the tier list real quick, a quick break for our MoneyGram send of the day for our favourite overtake of the race itself. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, Hayden. It wasn't exactly a massive collection to choose from here, given a lot of them involved contact, pieces of front wing going away, like Nico Hulkenberg trying to basically punt Logan Sargent out of the way. Not the best day for Haas, if we're being frank. But do you have any nominations for Send of the Day? What was your favourite overtake?
I am nominating my man, Lance Stroll. It was a race to forget, but he can at least get Send of the Day into the Rascasse on Logan Sargent. Could at least have something out of it.
I actually agree with you. That's what I was going to say. I was a fan of Lando Norris using some DRS in the rain to get around Yuki Tsunoda, which we'll get to in a minute. But Lance Stroll's send on Logan Sargent at Rascasse was definitely, for me, the best overtake. That was a good move. I liked one of K-Mags as well. It's earlier on in the day as well. He was up there. Shame his weekend kind of fell apart on that one. But yeah, for me, I've got to say, the MoneyGram send of the day, Lance Stroll on Logan Sargent at Rascasse. That's a MoneyGram send of the day, which, well, let's get back to the tier list. And well, should we get Lance Stroll out of the way now? Should we just put him in? Should we just put him in D and just move along swiftly?
You say what you want. I'll just cover my ears and just you say whatever you want about him, and I'll just pretend I'm not here for a second.
Yeah. That was painful. That was Lance. Again, you feel like the damage was largely done on Saturday with him. Obviously, given the fact that qualifying was bad, he missed the weighbridge, which didn't help. He lost vital time with that as well. Started in 14th, and then
got damage though in quali. That was the main issue. He got damage from Lando's crash, and that ruined his floor, so he couldn't finish quali lap. But yeah, I mean, it was stuck in that train. I don't know what was going on that first lap from Albon, like the kind of squeeze into the wall, but then it just didn't look like he got going out of the hairpin, and it bunched them up 3 wide, and then he just cut across Stroll. Like, okay, Stroll's just sticking his nose in. I can understand that. That's not Albon's fault. Stroll's not far enough alongside. That's fine. But it was just like, just drive, just go. What are you waiting for? And then, just went on to intermediates and had more mistakes on the intermediates than the drivers on the slicks.
My man bounced off the Lowe's hairpin barriers twice and finally had to park his car. He was the only car that technically did not finish this race, which, given it was a wet race at Monaco and technically 19 other dudes all finished. 18 and a half, let's say. But I have to put Lance in D. That was a disastrous weekend for him across the board. And Mercs are going to be in a dogfight with Aston Martin for second in the Constructors' Championship. You need both. You need both cars in the points. Lance is going to anchor this team soon if it doesn't keep up, because right now Fernando has not scored less than 15 points in a race weekend this season. And Stroll, he's losing ground quickly, and that would not be ideal. I love that also in the chat we got Crusader Larry with the Canadian accent. Give Lance an which I thought was quite funny. I appreciate that, certainly. Let's go Yuki Tsunoda next, because I know a lot of people were talking Yuki Tsunoda in this race. Ended up 15th in the end, but was running 9th. I think there might have been an issue with his brakes.
Has to have been,
because he was right up there. He was competing really well. There was radio messages talking about his brake bias setup, and it just wasn't working for him, which would have been such a shame, because I don't know about you, Hayden. I think he's driven really, really well so far this season. in an AlphaTauri team that's been very messy, and he was looking good for 9th, maybe 10th, and then it all just fell apart at the end. And
yeah, I'm a big fan of Yuki Tsunoda, and I think there was a lot of talk at the start of the season. There was this big hype around Nick de Vries, which I didn't buy. That he's going to come in, he's going to destroy Tsunoda, and Tsunoda's going to be out probably next year. They're going to be looking at Iwasa or maybe Liam Lawson.
Yeah,
but he's wiped the floor with de Vries, which is what I fully expected because he was kind of matching Gasly on occasions at the last season that Gasly was there at AlphaTauri last year. So yeah, I'm hoping that they come out and that there is something that fully happened with the brakes, because I don't know whether it's just a case of like flicking with brake bias and Yuki just wasn't as good in the wet conditions at Monaco compared on the brakes. But yeah, stellar performance at the start, but the second part of the race was a C. So I think let's put him in a B. Put
him in a B. Given I was leaning towards A. It depends. How much do you want to give Yuki the benefit of the doubt for his brakes? Because if it wasn't for that, he finishes 9th, and we're calling that a really good result. I'm tempted to go A. Let's see what
I'll follow you on A. I'm happy to follow you on A if the chat agrees.
Let's see what the chat says. Because... I can go A or B for Yuki, but damn, the brakes did my boy dirty. Also had a 10-second pit stop as well from Calgary. That's another good point. Let's go A. I'm gonna go with with the chat on this one. I'm gonna go with the chat and say A for Tsunoda on this one. Let's do. Should we just get both Williams in D from now? Like, should we just fast forward here, because like Sargent was dreadful, bounced off the wall multiple times. Albon he limped home in 14th.
Sargent became like a school lesson for him, because they were telling him about how to sort out graining and teaching him about that that's why they put him on the softs, so they could teach him about the graining issues and how to counteract that and how to maybe not be as serious and not get it as early on in the race.
Yeah. Oh, has our internet played up a little bit here?
Is a bit of an L, unfortunately. So I think Logan's got to go D. And apart from lap 1, I don't even know if Albon was still there.
Albon existed. We can confirm he attended the race. Apologies for the small Zoom blurt out there. I think the internet was stalled for just a second there. Luckily, I think we got away with it. But I'm going to say C for Albon, D for Sargent. Is that fair to say?
I'll follow you on that one, because I don't know what Albon did, so I'll follow you on the C.
Yeah, I think Albon was there. He was one of those guys that attended. We can confirm his attendance on that one. That Williams just was not competitive, and it's never a good idea when Logan Sargent's race turned into a glorified test session on that one. But we'll have to wait and see how it plays out for Williams going forward. I'm a bit concerned about Sargent. He started out really well to start out his Williams season, and I thought he'd be a bit stronger at Monaco, given he's raced around here before, but not so much on this one. So yeah, Albon C, let's go Sargent D. I'm going to say B for Nick de Vries. I think 12th was actually a pretty good result for Nick, all things considered. I think he has struggled. I mean, much has been made of his struggle so far this season. I mean, we had the inevitable silly season. Oh my God, Daniel Ricciardo's doing a seat fit in Italy. Are they going to dump de Vries early? It wouldn't be the first time we've seen that out of the Red Bull camp over the years. But this was probably his best weekend in F1 so far. Qualified 12th, finished 12th. Harmless weekend, good result, all things considered. I think that's a good, solid weekend. Was that fair to say?
Didn't seem to do anything wrong. So I think I'll follow you on the B there. Like I said, I've been quite critical of him so far this season. Do think that he still needs to carry on this momentum. Just because he's had one good race doesn't mean that, there's time for the pressure to be taken off of him. But hopefully this can be some good momentum that he can carry on to close the gap a little bit on Yuki, and maybe actually give himself a chance to carry on a Formula 1 career that rather than, be kicked out halfway through or at the end of the season.
Absolutely. I think that's fair to say. I mean, I think he deserves at least a full year to see where we're at, and then maybe reevaluate. Like Caldoro said, B, easily his best weekend, but still off Yuki's pace. Marcel saying needs a bit more time. He's driving a tractor. Just the hyenas online. Chill out. And I'm like, very defensive of Nick, I should say. I think the reality is probably somewhere in the middle of that, personally. But that's intriguing on that one. Hulkenberg, I kind of want to say C again here. Just bit clumsy off the line, got a penalty for a collision. And then got another 10 seconds at the end as well for not serving. I think Haas forgot to serve the penalty when they put him on the wet tyres. Like, no, you took a pit stop. You've got to serve it.
He's driven out, and they're just stood there going, "I feel like I'm forgetting something. Like, is there something going on?"
And then the steward basically goes, "Oh, what was that?" Shoot. But just I think he had a similar race to Magnussen, really, where it was just like. Bit clumsy, strategy was off, went full wets at the end, that wasn't necessary either. It was just a bit of a blah weekend across the board already for Hulkenberg. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think they were in a sticky situation. I think they put on the wets to try and be like, right, well, maybe we'll gamble the other way and hope that we benefit this time, and it just didn't work. And, shame for him because he had a really good first lap. He was like 4 places up. Yeah, okay, he did kind of bombard into Logan Sargent a little bit. But again, Monaco, sometimes those things are going to happen. Sometimes you can get away with them. Sometimes you can get away with a few little nudges. But this one was kind of a big nudge.
A big nudge, yeah.
I think I'll follow you on that one.
See, yeah. Okay, so Hulkenberg and team, we've got 4 drivers to go. We've got the 2 Alphas and the 2 McLarens. Let's go Lando Norris. I've seen a couple of comments ask about Lando. Tempted to say A here for Lando. I'm still not fully convinced on this McLaren post-upgrade, and I think Norris bringing the car home in 9th, I think that's a pretty good weekend, all things considered, especially given that his Piastri's teammate followed him home in A. I'm sorry, in A? In A? No, not quite. In 10th, I should say, sorry. Yeah. But I'm tempted to put both McLarens in A.
Yeah, I think I'm happy to follow you on that one because they had a solid weekend. Lando, I don't think it cost him too much, in all fairness, to crash in Q2 because they got the car back out for Q3, but I don't really think they could have competed anymore rather than maybe being 1 place higher above Yuki Tsunoda, which might have helped them a little bit in the race because they wouldn't have been stuck behind him for as long. Maybe they had the quicker car during the race and could have not had as much of a gap to the rest of the top guys. But other than that, it didn't really cost him that much, in all fairness. Oscar Piastri, not quite up there with Lando, not quite on the same level. They weren't as close to each other as
made a lot of ground, though.
Would have wanted to have been, but made a lot of ground, and I think a solid job to be in the points as well at Monaco. Yeah, both drivers in the A.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. And shout out to Piastri. If he's keeping Lando Norris honest, that's very, very good as a rookie, given a lot of people know that Lando Norris is absolutely the real deal as a driver. And I think they might have found their ideal teammate for him if Piastri is able to keep this up. The car is mid as far as I'm concerned, but if you're getting both cars in the points, that's a good day, I think, for me. The Alphas, last up. Bottas was 11th in the end, just outside the point. Zhou, he tried the audacious get off the soft tyre after 1 lap strategy. Yeah. Ended up 13th. Yeah. I think Bottas was pretty good here to end up 11th. I'm not convinced on Alfa Romeo at all. I think Alfa Romeo is still near the bottom end of the field in terms of outright pace. I'm thinking B for both. Is that fair?
I think so. I think it was a disappointing qualifying, unfortunately, for Zhou. I think he kind of just started from near the back end of the field and tried the audacious, which in theory, when you think about it, you write it up, it should work because you pit early, you catch up, they all go behind you. You've got all these 3 positions. You just got to bring the tyres to the end, which Pirelli, we know that they probably are going to last if you're on the hards.
Exactly.
And do the whole race. So it's not a bad strategy. And unfortunately, the Logan Sargent train happened, and that just kind of caught him out, so it didn't allow him to move up as many positions. But because Bottas got past, there was just really Bottas and Albon. I think they were just kind of together again. Nothing really happened between the 2 of them.
Right.
But I think a solid job from Bottas, and I think I'll take both B for both of them.
Yep, so that is the final tier list as it stands. You got the podium itself, Verstappen, Alonso, and Ocon in S. Hamilton, Tsunoda, and the McLarens in A. Russell, Leclerc, Gasly, the Freeze, and the Alphas in B. the Hasses, Sainz, and Albon in C, and then at the bottom in D tier, we've got Perez, Stroll, and Logan Sargent. So yeah, that seems like that's going to be the running order for the tier list on this occasion. Let us know in the comments after this video goes up and the replay goes out. Let us know if you think we've got it right, if there are any changes you would make. I'd love to let us know in the comments. I've seen a couple of people saying for Hamilton in S. I can't quite get there on that, but I like it where it is. I like him in A. If it makes you feel better, I put him like really far to the left, so it's like he's really close to S tier. Maybe that's a fair compromise. Who knows? But yeah, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts after the race. So again, if you're watching along on the replay, please let us know in the comments where you'd like to find us. Before we get out of here real quick, Hayden, tell the good people where they can find you one more time. Give us
It's
a
very
plug.
simple. Just at Haydon Gullis everywhere. It's just my name everywhere. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all those good places. That's where you can find me if you like some F1 23 content.
Yeah, absolutely. F1 23 just around the corner. I hope they bring him back for the esports series. He's an absolutely fine content creator and an all-round stand-up bloke. Again, it's annoying. It's been
make me blush.
Like it's been too long. I said the same thing when I bumped into Brendan Lee as well. I hadn't seen Brendan in years, and it was really nice to catch up with him. Like we're bringing the old school content creators together via the WTF1 rap, which I do absolutely love. That it's like a family reunion over here at the moment. We'll be back for the Spanish Grand Prix next weekend over in Catalonia. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Catalonia might be a bit sketchy for actual race quality. Fingers crossed Catalonia holds up. We can only hope. Like one more time real quick as well. If you're American and you're watching along, you've got until 6 p.m. Eastern today if you want to get involved in the MoneyGram Fast Money giveaway for the Monaco Grand Prix weekend. Sign up for your chance to win. Download the app when you get a chance already. And I love that I almost went the entire 42-minute stream without somebody mentioning my hair, because Marcel in the comments in the end went, yes, Dre went Super Saiyan. Yeah, very funny. Very funny. I'm doing it for a competition. I support my mate, and he's a barber. And yes, this was the prep work. So yes, you could say I've done a fantastic Goku impression by the time this stream ends. But thank you all, chat, for watching along. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Big thanks to Hayden as ever for joining us. It was a great time as ever. Until the Spanish Grand Prix, thank you very much for watching the WTF1 Rap powered by MoneyGram. I've been Dre Harrison. He's been Hayden Gullis. Till then, sayonara. Take care.